warehouse that Charles was working with. But I'm personally more of a Python user myself, right? So we're there in our Python notebook, but you're gonna see this new T-SQL magic command I can add. And what that lets me do is it just lets me insert a T-SQL code cell in the middle of my Python notebook. So you can see I'm just writing a normal warehouse query, but you're gonna see something really cool here and here. You're gonna see this bind DataFrame command. And what this lets me do is it lets me store that result set from the warehouse in a Python DataFrame.
So now my Python script can access the result of you directly.
Exactly. So now I have the full power of Python directly here with this result from the warehouse. So I want to do some customer segmentation modeling. So for that, I'm going to go and create myself a couple of parameters such as recency and frequency. And the great news is one of my colleagues has already written the code for the customer segment. And the even better news is they stored in a user data function. Right?
User data function, that's going to be, I announced this one, right?
You did, I think you did just announce this one. So here's my beautiful user data function. You can see it takes in a number of different inputs. It's doing a bunch of this segmentation logic. It provides an output. And these are just awesome for just defining this reusable code I can just use everywhere. And what I really love about these as well is I can just test them out directly in line in this experience. So if I was to just input some recency and frequency data over here, I could just run it and test it out.
So this is just sassified functions, so easy, anybody can create those. And I can use them outside of Fabric as well.
Yes, exactly. They come with an endpoint that I can call from anywhere, including notebooks as well.
So you can call a REST endpoint from outside of Fabric, but in notebooks it gets even better.
Yes, of course. So we wanted to make this even better than calling just a REST endpoint. We've integrated it with our notebook utils over here. So you can see I can just scan through and use IntelliSense to choose the function I want to use. And I can now create myself a function object that I can just leverage. So then in a single line of code, I can basically call this function with all of the different parameters I've just defined. And in a couple of seconds, there it is. That's how easy it is to integrate.
What do you guys think? It's pretty cool, right?
Thank you.
Now,
right.
what about all these parameters that you had for those?
Yes, and I think you might have announced something that was pretty useful for that. Of course, that is the variable library. And this is probably one of my own personal favorite announcements from this keynote. With the variable library, I'm basically able to just go ahead and define all of the parameters I need to use. You can see I've already created one over here. And the great thing here is I've got my default value set, but I've also got my alternative test and prod set. So what does that mean? Now when I go and deploy this across dev, test, prod, these values are all just going to update automatically. So I'm going to define one more parameter over here for recency. You can see just how easy that experience is. I'm going to go and say this is an integer. I'm going to add a default value over here. And I'm just going to override the test and prod sets. So again, once these deploy, all of these will just automatically update.
So no more hard-coded values in the notebook. You can actually put it all in the library.
Yes.
And to use them is a breeze in the notebook.
Exactly. So it's going to be very similar to just what you just saw with the user data functions. I'm going to go and create myself a variables object. And then I'm going to go and update these parameters from being hard-coded to dynamic. And take a look at this. Again, I get just beautiful IntelliSense. I can actually browse through my variable library, just select which parameter I want to add. It is that easy to use. Okay, so now we're going to run this. And again, it's just going to automatically thank you. All right, so I've done all of this great processing, and I want to get this data back into my warehouse now. So I'm going to add one step, which is just going to convert this customer segments I've calculated into a JSON object. And now take a look what I'm going to do over here. Inside my notebook cell, I'm going to go ahead and actually define data warehousing transactions. So I'm going to go and create this new segment column. I'm going to add the data I just went and processed with Python directly back into my warehouse, a whole bunch of other steps. And it's really marrying that asset transactions of the enterprise data warehouse with the full flexibility and programmability of Python.
So we're going to see a lot of data warehouse being maintained through notebooks, getting all the value of the combination of the power of the T-SQL, the power of Python, with the ability to monitor them very nicely with the monitoring tool that we have in notebooks. It's going to be incredible. Yeah. Now, all that is, we haven't seen much of the Copilot, but we've been continuing to work on Copilot in the notebook.
Yes, absolutely. So if you're looking at this, you're a little bit worried, like, hey, I don't really work with notebooks. Well, Copilot is here to help you out, along with a whole bunch of new updates coming to it in public preview today. So this includes the in-cell Copilot experience for ease of use, a bunch of quick actions such as debugging, optimizing, explaining your code, and best of all, no more installation step. Yes.
Yeah,
I thought some of you might like that.
I learned how to code in Python just using the Copilot. It's so cool. Now, there's one more announcement we have, right? Because we have something new that you guys may be familiar with from databases. You know about views in databases. You know, your ability to define a query that is stored in the database, and then you can run it and call it in your queries as if it was a table, kind of a logical query. And then you have in the database the ability sometimes to materialize the view, so the view is not computed when you call it, but computed ahead of time. And we're going to do the same thing with Spark and the Lake.
Absolutely. We're bringing materialized views to Spark, to the Lakehouse. A whole bunch of goodness, a lot of exciting features over here. So why don't we just jump straight in and take a look what this experience is going to look like. Okay, so we're starting out inside our Lakehouse, and you can see I've already defined my bronze layers over here. And I want to go and build out my silver and gold layers using these new materialized views. So I'm going to jump into a notebook. The first step I'm going to do is I'm going to go and create my silver schema. All right, so we're going to go and define that. And as the next step, we're actually going to start building out these materialized views in the notebook. And there's one really exciting feature that's coming to these materialized views, which is the ability to define data quality constraints. So I can go over here and say, hey, if my sales quantity column is null, go and drop those rows, right? I can start defining these different types of rules.
So data quality is just built into Spark, into Fabric.
Exactly, exactly. And I can define things like nulls or failures. So I'm going to go and define the rest of this materialized view over here. I'm going to basically be doing a bunch of joins in my bronze layer. And let's fast forward now. You can see I built out a pretty complex notebook. It's gone and defined a lot of views that are built on top of other views that are built on top of tables. And you can see basically I'm going to go and run this ahead of time.
But it's really important to run them in the right order. All these views to materialize them in the right order because they depend one on another.
Yes, exactly. And so this is where our beautiful management portal for materialized views comes in. Now you can see this beautiful diagram. I didn't have to go and configure it or do anything. This is just defined declaratively. It is provided out of the box. And I can see how all of these different views are defined. You can see it updating in real time. Did you see that box just went green? That means that step has succeeded. It has finished running. I can jump in. I can see all the details, just how long it took to run, when did it complete, all of the details I need. So we're going to keep running this. We're going to keep monitoring to it. And we can see that the next step is actually turned red, which means a failure has occurred. So again, I can just jump into this. I can see exactly what went wrong, the error messages right there in line. And in this case, I can actually see that one of our quality constraints got violated. And I configured it to fail if that was the case. Now, we're going to fast forward a little bit here as well. I've gone ahead and fixed my issue. And now we can see everything is succeeding. All the steps look green. All of the steps have completed. So as the last step, let's go ahead and actually jump into our Lakehouse. You can see our silver and gold layers here. And the best thing is, from a user perspective, these just look like Delta tables.
It's more than just look like Delta tables. These are Delta tables, which means now everything works. You can run SQL queries on top of those. You can do the Power BI Direct Lake on top of that. Everything works.
Exactly. Everything just works end to end.
So materialized views are coming to Fabric, to Spark, and one more announcement.
Yes, one more announcement we're going to do. So I'm really, really excited to announce that Autoscale billing for Spark is coming. It is out in public preview as of today. So all those notebooks you just saw me running, they can all run with this new billing model. What does that mean? You are billed for what you use with Autoscale up, Autoscale down, which is great for this kind of Spark spiky workloads that you may have.
So the most affordable, the most cost-effective Spark platform on the market just became even more cost-effective there, I guess, right? So thank you so much, Steve.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Amir. Have a great conference.